Yeah, that's right, everybody. It's nothing but Netflix here on RHAP. I'm Josh Wigler, and I am joined here by the man who has very graciously allowed me to podcast at RHAP as long as I am wearing my ankle monitor at all times. It is Special Agent in Charge, Chappell. Chappell, how's it going?
It's going great. Thank you for escaping from prison and allowing me to capture you to put you in this role.
I've watched Prison Break a bunch of times, so I really do know my way out of escaping a high correctional maximum security facility. The secret is to tattoo your body with the blueprints of the jail and just study that. And like you've got like the map of the prison tattooed on your form, and you'll be able to escape anything, really.
I've never seen Prison Break, but to what I know about it is that like
we're getting there.
Are we getting Prison Break? I feel like we have
Yeah.
to. I feel like that's such a big blind spot for me in TV. You know, I kind of
Prison Break July 1 on Netflix. It's coming. It's coming. I'm telling you. I don't have a lot on like my calendar, like my actual radar, even though I just showed Chappell some things that are on my calendar and my radar. But like Prison Break has been like the red X July 1. And on top of that, Lost comes out on Netflix on July 1. And I'm more excited about Prison Break, to be totally honest with you.
I think you've done enough Lost podcasting to last a lifetime. Like it can literally come out on every streaming service, and you've done a podcast to cover each of them. So I'm not surprised that you have this one highlighted for Prison Break. And again, I've never seen Prison Break. My brother, it's his favorite show. He's watched it a billion times, and he's always like, "You gotta watch him." I was like, "No, I'm good. Yeah. I'm good." So for nothing but Netflix, I'll be happy to
find it. We'll find it. You've watched Lost though, right?
Yes.
Chappell.
Yes.
Have you watched Lost?
No.
No. All right, okay.
I've never seen it.
Coming July, Prison Break and Lost go head to head on Nothing But Netflix.
Versus podcast.
Chappell and I are not here to talk about Lost or Prison Break, though we are here to talk about a prison break in its own right here on White Collar, the USA network show where characters are welcome. It has just arrived a la Suits onto Netflix earlier this month. We decided to check it out to see if it's got any kind of Suits bump underneath it. Chappell has never seen White Collar. I have never seen White Collar. Our guest today, however, has also never seen White Collar, but I'm very excited to bring him onto the podcast. We are bringing in a third head today. Very excited. This is a person who, if you have not heard him before, get ready, because you may, by the end of this podcast, find yourself both crying and laughing. It is the Ariel who does not suck of the Great Crying Laughing podcast, formerly of post-show recaps, and also regularly of Chappell's Grey's Anatomy coverage. Ariel, welcome to Nothing But Netflix.
I don't even know what to react to first, whether it's your pronunciation of tattoo or the fact that Chappell has never seen Lost.
Yeah.
But Josh, that you mentioned your ankle monitor. That is the same suit that you were wearing the last time we podcasted together.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't remember that.
There you go.
I'm happy to identify this red thread on my shoulder?
No, that I cannot do. I'm not touching you.
Was that red thread a red herring?
That was a red hair.
It's a red herring.
Yeah.
I think that's right. For the people who are watching Nothing But Netflix on video, do not be alarmed. There is a human being behind the cartoon avatar that is representing the great Ariel, who does not suck here, who is one of the fabulous expats of post-show recaps, covered so many different shows, White Lotus, in addition to White Collar, Ariel.
Yeah, just a lot of lack of color. Yeah, you mentioned the circle. I am now a talking circle. So you know, this is who I am now. This is my final form, I think.
This is your final form. I think you got more to go. We'll see.
Me and ChatGPT got together and we created this.
That's interesting. That's an interesting premise. Son of ChatGPT is a great idea.
Scarier than just
called Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Judgment Day. I'm judging harshly.
I think you're judging harshly. No, I wanted to find somebody who had watched White Collar before and reached out on a whim to Ariel, thinking for whatever reason, it's like, I feel like Ariel will have seen White Collar before. But Ariel, you have not seen White Collar before, but like I'd already asked you if you wanted to be on the podcast. So at this point it was awkward. I figured you should just come on.
I mean, listen, you said characters welcome. I remember USA's push for colorful characters and colorful shows and colorful commercials, most importantly. I wasn't watching the show, but I always knew what was happening because the promo was always like, Neil's out of prison. This guy needs to catch him. What's gonna happen? Oh my God, find out next week. I'm like, yeah, I think I watched it. It's like a trailer that tells you too many things.
Chappell, were you aware of White Collar? Because you never saw White Collar either.
No, I didn't watch it, but I was very aware. I was a Blue Sky television person on USA. I don't know why they were calling it that, but that's pretty much the era of shows around the same time where we got Suits, we had Monk, we had this, we had Burn Notice, I think was another one. Of course, we had Psych. You know, those were like the big USA shows. And I was right there because I'm a big Psych fan. I used to watch Psych religiously. I remember I even had it like on my iPod back when they used to make those, you know, like the regular one. Yeah. And so like so I was watching all of these shows. But by the time White Collar and I think Burn Notice, when those popped out, I was like, look, I can't do this again. You know, I just did the whole thing. It was just, it was like that in White Collar. I was like, okay, I feel like these are kind of like they're very similar, maybe. And again, I had just watched Psych. I had been doing the Suits watch as well. It just felt like a lot. And so I saw the previews. I saw that it would be interesting to me because it was in that same kind of style that all the rest of those shows that I was enjoying was in. Yep. But it was just too much at the time. So I'm very excited to come back and watch it now, especially because we just did, Rob and I just did our daily Suits rewatch podcast, Suit Yourself. We had a Facebook group, and every time we asked for suggestions about what Rob and I would potentially talk about daily again, people always brought up White Collar. And so I'm very excited to be able to finally get to watch it and see what all the hype is about.
So yeah, we asked Rob if he would be interested in coming back to Nothing But Netflix to talk about a different Blue Sky Characters Welcome USA Network TV show, and he also broke out of jail. We have yet to find him. He is on the lam. It was a surprising reaction to being asked if he would be interested in talking about another USA show. It would appear the answer to that was not really. I didn't want to talk about it. Chappell, though, having done the Suits Yourself experiment, and like, let's not bury the lead. You also talked about the Suits spinoff. Pearson. However many episodes of Pearson. How many episodes was Pearson?
10 episodes. It was one season run for the Suits spinoff prior to the announcement of the Suits LA, the next actual spinoff to Suits. So we've talked to the creator, Aaron Korsh of Suits. We talked about it. We've talked about Pearson. We talked about it all. And so, yeah, we've covered Suits from beginning to end. And now it just feels like we're waiting on Suits LA to drop. And in the meantime, more USA to come, I guess. And so White Collar will fill that void in until Suits pops back up.
At least that is what Netflix seems to be hoping for. Last week, Ariel, I don't know if you got a chance to tune in, but last week we exposed, the great Emily Fox and I exposed Chappell to Sex and the City for the very first time. Chappell had never seen SATC. It was his first SATS experience.
Satic.
First time hanging with Miranda and Charlotte and Carrie and Samantha and Stanford Blanche, who is a crossover character here.
Yes.
White Collar, but had never seen it before. And now here we are watching White Collar, and it's sort of a similar tale in which HBO leased out a bunch of their shows to Netflix, new partnership deal here in the streaming era, where we are seeing HBO shows popping up on Netflix. We've been seeing USA shows pop up on Netflix, and Suits took over the universe last year. Suits was a huge show. Is White Collar supposed to be lightning in a bottle again? Is this supposed to be another attempt at capturing that magic on Netflix's part? Are they hoping that White Collar is going to electrify the Netflix generation?
Oof, I think so. I mean, they certainly hope so. I think that it's like the easiest thing for them, right? Like they want the low level of effort, the low lift for them, put something on and then it does crazy numbers. That's the win. So when they're spending $3 billion on Three Body Problem, they can spend a little less money here and maybe make it pop. But as to like what's possible, I don't know. It's hard to say accurately because I haven't seen White Collar with the exception of this first episode. But I just think Suits is I am much more partial to a legal drama, but there's just something that's easier to follow week in, week out, I think, with Suits, I'd say.
Chappell, let me throw the question to you. And let me add some additional context because Suits was like king of the Netflix charts, right? Like it was in that top 10 for how long was it in the top 10 for? Like months.
4 months. It felt like forever. It was to the point where we couldn't even ignore it anymore. You know, I'd seen Suits before. I'd actually seen most of Suits. I didn't realize I didn't see the last season or so because, you know, it was just a lot of episodes. But it was going on so long to where Rob finally just says, do we have to talk about this? It just feels like neglect at this point. It's been just dominating Netflix for so long and we're ignoring it. I'm thinking, I mean, it's just Suits. It's 10 years old at this point. I mean, I don't know why we would have to watch it, but man, we were just late to the party. Everybody was talking about it. We have Suits ads and all kinds of stuff. So I really think that, since the Suits resurgence on Netflix, I think people are looking for a new binge show. And so maybe Netflix is just hoping that it is White Collar that'll just pick up those Suits viewers, or maybe even the people who ignored those USA shows and usher them into the next bingeable show. And that would probably be nice because like I said, we've seen the Suits actors in everything. Super Bowl ads, they're in different commercials, and they were at the Emmys, I believe, you know, so they're all over the place. And maybe that's what's in store for these people from White Collar and potentially other USA shows in the future.
Okay, so as we're recording this, it's April 14th, 2024. And Suits dominated the Netflix charts for months. White Collar has been on Netflix now for 2 full weeks. And here are the top 10 TV shows in the US today as per Netflix. You ready? Here it is from 10 to 1. The hijacking of Flight 601, which sounds like a pleasant experience. The Gentleman. I don't know if either of you have checked out The Gentleman yet. Pretty fun.
I did. It was very fun.
I've heard good things. Yeah,
The Gentleman's good. Files of the Unexplained is in 8th. Parasite the Prey, or The Grey, sorry. It seems like a Korean horror show. Good Times cartoon show. Three Body Problem is number 5. As we go to top 5, baby. Bad Dinosaurs, number 4. Bad Dinosaurs is an animated, irreverent, goofy kids show, according to Netflix, is Bad Dinosaurs. Baby Reindeer. Have either of you checked out Baby Reindeer?
No.
Have you not checked out Baby Reindeer yet?
I'm assuming it's also an irreverent, goofy kid show.
No, Baby Reindeer is an offbeat psychological dark comedy about a stalker that's apparently quite terrifying. Then we've got a stand-up special. Neil Brennan's, not Neil Caffrey's, Crazy Good is number 2, and number 1 is not White Collar, but it is another show that starts in prison, at least, and probably stays there. Unlocked a Jail Experiment. White Collar, 2 weeks into its run on Netflix, Chappell, has not hit the top 10 TV shows in the US today, or at least has not stayed there. What's up? Why is White Collar not getting the Suits bump? What's going on? Having seen all of Suits, now having watched the pilot of White Collar, which is what we'll talk about today, why is White Collar? What's separating the two of them in your expert opinion?
See, I don't know if Suits was an immediate hit when it hit Netflix, right? When it came to Netflix, was it just automatically the number 1 show, or was it a slow burn where people were a slow burn notice? Yeah, where people were just checking it out and then it was picking up steam, because it felt to me like there was a snowball effect, right? Where it was like, oh, Suits is on, and then I was like, oh, well, Suits is there. Okay, well, why is Suits in the top 10? And then eventually it was like, well, Suits is never leaving the top 10. And then it was Suits Mania, you know? And so maybe people just haven't caught on to White Collar. Maybe people don't know about it, you know? And they're just waiting on somebody to tell them, hey, click this. But I do feel like if Netflix wanted to be in the top 10, it would have been. And so maybe Netflix is not pushing White Collar the way that they were pushing other shows, because I know Netflix algorithms. I've been doing this nothing but Netflix thing a long time. And if Bad Dinosaurs is number 4 on the TV charts, they could have made White Collar in the top 10 if they wanted to. I'll just say that.
So maybe they want to pull out White Collar when they really need it.
Maybe right before the Suits launch for Suits LA or something. Maybe they're just trying to unroll it at the right time. They'll do a big push for it. Maybe we get some advertising or something. But yeah, I think that of all the USA shows,
they're waiting to pop their White Collar, is what we're saying.
Yeah,
is that right, Ariel? Yeah. They're waiting for the White Collar pop.
Boo. I still can't get over Bad Dinosaurs. I feel like, to me, it sounds like a reality show with dinosaurs a la Bad Girls Club, where they just like live in the same house and get into antics.
Yeah, you hover over it and there's just like this tiny little pink dinosaur with a one tooth that like hops around on a bunch of eggs and like goes and plays around with the eggs, and then a giant dinosaur shows up to sit down on the eggs and squashes the little pink dinosaur that was on the eggs, and it looks like maybe this triceratops that's sticking on the eggs has wedged the pink dinosaur within its buttocks. This is not me just making stuff up. I'm watching it right now. I'm watching this happen. This is real.
Sit down, dinosaur.
Unfortunately, not a reality show. This is not how the dinosaurs got wiped out.
I mean, you don't know that. 2. You weren't there. Yeah, you weren't there. You don't know.
I don't know for sure. But so I guess we're just waiting. We're waiting for White Collar to have its moment. Did we got here too soon, perhaps?
Maybe. Yeah. Or maybe Suits is just lightning in the bottle. Like I said, I'd seen the show. I thought it was a good show when I watched it the first time, but it was definitely not something I could have saw picking up steam so late into streaming world. It's just like it just popped up out of nowhere and it just never went away. And so maybe White Collar has that type of upside, but we've yet to see it yet. But as someone who watched their first 2 episodes ever, I thought it was cool. I definitely will watch more of it. Yeah, I'm ready to talk about it and potentially binge all 6 seasons of the show.
There's a lot of White Collar. It's 6 seasons of White Collar. Not as many seasons and episodes as Suits, which had it wasn't 200 episodes of Suits.
No, it was over 100. It was something like 100
some odd episodes of Suits.
134 or something like that.
81 episodes of White Collar, 6 seasons of White Collar, and yeah, I also really enjoyed it. Like, this felt like, Ariel, here's what I think like the USA Network shows, these blue sky shows, the characters welcome type shows, this is like to the TV genre as easy listening is to music. This is like easy watching is White Collar. And I don't mean that as an insult. I mean, like, there's some danger here. These guys are committing crimes. They shouldn't be doing some of the stuff they're doing. But I'm not terribly anxious watching it. Like, I'm kind of just like, yeah, all right, here's my guys going to do some stuff. There's a con man and there's the cop, and they shouldn't be getting along, but they're getting along great. And they're kind of like a buddy situation. It's dangerous, but it's not too dangerous. And look, there's Tiffany Thiessen. Like, it's kind of relaxing.
No, anytime Diane Carroll pops up on my screen, I'm like, oh, I feel very, very relaxed. Or if she's crying, I feel very upset. But I agree. It's like candy, right? This very procedural system that they set out to make with all these blue sky shows, and hit it out of the park for the most part for all those years. And it's just easy. And like, to your point, the danger, it's never not without a sense of like playfulness, right? Like, for the most part, the stakes feel high sometimes. There's an explosion, whatever, but you're kind of like, ooh, Neil's smiling. That must mean something. And the music is playful. They have those like nonsense like drum bongos. Ooh, I'm getting some playful vibes. That means that I'm going to be okay when I'm watching this, which is something that you can't say when you're, watching the news, for instance.
Correct. Yeah. I think White Collar less stressful than the news, Chappell.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about the way these blue sky television shows are all about some type of con that we're in on, right? It's like when we talk about Psych, it's the story of basically a mentalist, where it's a guy who can read the room well enough to pretend that he's a psychic. And so we're all in on the scam, and so we're brought in and they use a scammer alongside the police to kind of push the narrative. In Suits, it's the same concept. You have a person with a photographic memory pretending to be a lawyer. We're all in on it. So we're like, ooh, how do we get away with this? And so here in White Collar, We have a criminal who is now we're brought in on the criminal's kind of scamming, you know, on his fraud, on all of that stuff, so that we can use him to further the plot. And so I guess it's because you're working hand in hand with, you know, the scammer, the criminal, it does feel a little bit lighter. It doesn't feel like we're in a dire situation where we have to save this person or save ourselves from this person. They're like a crazy murderer or something like that. It's like, no, this just kind of feels like you said, like white collar crime, you know, something light. It's like no one's really being hurt by this per se. Yeah. There's some tense moments throughout those other shows. So I'm sure this show gets pretty tense, but for the most part, they try to keep it light, try to keep you in on the joke, and kind of let you see how the magic happens from the scammer's point of view.
Yeah. So we are however many minutes into this podcast without saying the words Matt Bomer. We have not even talked about the fact that this is Ariel, you'd say this is his breakout. You would say Matt Bomer's breakout role is white collar as Neil Caffrey.
I would say as far as like being a household name and being a household face.
Yeah.
Especially if you live in a very fancy corner mansion castle type. This is a very popular face around that time, and he definitely, those eyes, they really made a name for him, I'd say.
Yeah. He had been in other stuff certainly before. He had some appearances on Chuck. He had done some like soaps. I think he did All My Children. And he, of course, how could we forget, was had a role on True Calling, if anyone recalls True Calling.
Josh, I don't know this man. I do not know this man. I'm like, household name, whose house? Because not at mine. I've never seen this man before in my life. I'm sorry. This man does not exist. And I was like, this is weird, because I think the same thing kind of happens with like a Mike Ross on Suits, where to me, he's Mike Ross. I don't think he's been in anything else ever. Yeah. You know, Harvey Specter's been in a lot of stuff. Not to me, he was only in Suits. And so for me to be watching this, I'm like, nope, this is him. This is his breakout role, his star-making role. He's the only known for this. And if he's a household name, it's because you watched all the white collar. I had no clue this man was an actor until today. I was today years old.
Does Matt Bomer have what are Matt Bomer's like big creds beyond white collar at this point, Ariel?
Since white collar, I would say,
like with people like know if like Matt Bomer's like brought up, is it still white collar?
I think for sure this is the thing that he's most known for. I know that what comes to mind, like the sequel to Magic Mike. People know him from that. I don't remember if he was in the original one. The Sinner, like nothing else that he was in was as popular, I would say, as this was at the height.
He had a lot of vampire sex with Lady Gaga on American Horror Story.
Yeah,
that was him. I do know him. Wow, that's all you had to say.
Yeah, vampire sex with Lady Gaga. I say it pretty often. I can't believe it's been this long into the podcast that it took me to say vampire sex.
You should have started with that, man. Yeah. If you should have, all you had to say was "Tear You Apart" by She Wants Revenge, and it would have just clicked in. I was like, I saw that episode of American Horror Story. You see, I said episode. I think I tapped out of Hotel.
Shout out to Stephen Fishback, who was my co-pilot on the American Horror Story hotel recaps on post-show recaps once upon a time. Not a bit, not a joke. This is a real thing that happened. Yeah,
I am in shock. I am pretty deep into PSR. I've listened to a lot of podcasts about a lot of shows I did not watch, and for some reason, I missed that. But when I tell you, if those archives are still out there, I'm gonna find them.
You can see.
I'm gonna find them. I need to know now. What do we think about Matt Bomer on AHS? Okay, now we're starting to make sense. But aside from that, I'm telling you, I've never seen this man before.
He's been in a lot of great stuff. He's a really good actor. He is like the most handsome man on the planet. I feel like he is a beautiful, beautiful man. He was almost Superman once upon a time. He was going to be in the J.J. Abrams written Superman movie.
Crazy.
That never took off. He would have been a great Superman, I feel like.
Yeah, that chin is chiseled. Okay.
Ariel's a no sell on Matt.
No, I think he definitely like the boring Clark Kent vibe. He definitely has that.
Yeah. He's Clark Kent is mostly just chin. You know, if you got like that jawline, then you know you can pull it off. And so I think that's really what it is. But yeah, as far as boring goes, I don't think he was boring here. So maybe he would bring a little spice to the role, but it doesn't look like he ever got to play that role. Or if he did, I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Well, you only saw one episode of American Horror Story Hotel. So you didn't see just how spicy it got. He's an Emmy-nominated actor, Golden Globe award-winning actor for The Normal Heart, I believe, opposite Mark Ruffalo, if I'm not mistaken, which was
right.
also a Ryan Murphy thing. One of the more prominent, like, gay leading men in Hollywood is Matt Bomer. He's in Fellow Travelers right now. I don't know if either of you are watching that. But I do think, like, still to this day, I think you think white collar. I think to Chappell's point, that's probably like the thing that he is still most like as far as a project associated with. But I never in a million years until I watched these, we watched the pilot. I never would have been able to like if it was like a really important, and all my lifelines were out, and it's like, who wants to be a millionaire, and which one of these names is Matt Bomer's name on White Collar, and Neil Caffrey had popped up, I would have lost however much money I was up to at that point if I didn't walk away. No chance.
That's sad.
No way. Neil Caffrey.
It's impressive how little I knew about this show. For me to be watching USA at the same exact time, while all these other shows are going on, I'm like, for me to have completely missed this. I mean, it just must have just been in a time slot or on a day where just something else had my attention, because you're right. I could have told you nothing about this show. I had no clue anything about it. I knew that it was about white collar crime, and that was it. I had no clue there was a guy who could break out of jail. I didn't know that there was going to be this partnership. I just had no clue. So I have to thank y'all both for allowing me to go back and kind of, touch on this little blind spot I had for television, because I'm losing that round of Millionaire as well. And I kind of pride myself with being able to know the TV questions,
Never would have gotten it. Ariel, true or false, Matt Bomer has a brother named Neil?
Oh God. I would say true.
Yeah, otherwise why would have asked the question?
Yeah, I got you on that one.
Do you think that got confusing at the Bomer family dinners? Like they would say Neil, and they both look like, yeah.
What?
Mom?
Yeah, I think it would depend on if Neil is as good looking as Matt, because
what if he? Yeah, I mean, it definitely isn't.
It would just be like another
be hard to do.
If he is, then the Bomer family is the hottest family on earth.
Yeah, New York's hottest club is the Bomer family.
Okay, so Matt Bomer, he plays Neil. His name is Neil Caffrey, and he was a grifter, a conman. We come to find out that he was convicted on bond forgery, but he was suspected of counterfeiting, securities fraud, art theft, and I have rocketeering in my notes, but I believe that's different than what he was actually suspected of.
He was making bootleg versions of The Rocketeer. He
was printing out VHSs of the Billy Campbell starring The Rocketeer. And when we begin, Chappell, he's in prison. He's in jail. He got arrested before the show starts, but he's not going to let that stop him from going and seeing what happened to the love of his life, Kate.
Yeah. He's breaking out of jail. We get let in on that moment. He's shaving. He's getting a disguise. He basically just walks straight out of the prison. Turns out he's been in jail for 3 years, and he's about 3 months away from being let out. But he needs to break out today, because turns out Kate has dumped him, and since that day he's been growing a beard and plotting this escape. And so eventually, he just gets out, and there's only one man who can find him. The guy who I guess is a pro at finding this man, Peter, Detective Peter of the New York City White Collar Crimes Unit.
Peter Burke, who is played by Tim DeKay, who I always like. I've never known his name until I had to look it up for White Collar, at which point I was like, I recognize him, but I have no idea what from. Ariel, were you a Carnival guy? Were you a Carnival person?
Loved Carnival.
He was the guy. He was what's his face?
He was the guy who was wearing that. Yeah,
he had like the leg brace. Yeah, he was sort of like Hottie McHot on Carnival.
On Carnival, yeah. And then I saw him while he was recording, or while he was he didn't have a podcast, while he was filming White Collar. I saw him. I used to work like right near, actually it happens in this episode that we just saw, Wall Street. And he was getting off the bus when I was getting off the bus. I was like, oh my God, it's that guy from White Collar. I think I even knew his name at the time. But I just saw him and walked away.
Yeah.
That's my story.
You know, not a lot of people walk away from Special Agent Peter Burke. He gets you in his sights and he takes you down.
I escaped.
And so he takes it particularly personally when his old charge, Neil Caffrey, escapes. And what do we think of Neil's escape plan, Chappell? He grew a beard to shave it so that he could be incognito walking out with a prison uniform that someone must have slipped to him.
No, he ordered it. I don't think they said that he ordered it using the other guy's American Express card. Like he legit has been planning this for months. I don't know how they got this to him.
He shaves his beard and changes and like has like no time to do this, and yet somehow is able to pull this off so quickly. Like that's a big, thick beard he's got too. Like, how do you shave all of that and change your clothes and like take it out of Ziploc bags without getting it wet with toilet water in like record time the way he does?
Yeah, he also created a card key, you know, like he copied it using the tape recorder. I'm not quite sure the science on that one, but that's what he did. This man has been planning his escape. He seems like this is kind of his bag, you know, fraudulent activity, being able to escape. Like this is just kind of what he does. So it's crazy that he's just been sitting in jail for 3 years anyway, just kind of just like, all right, I guess I'll just sit this one out, when the entire time he could have just walked out of prison.
Could have just walked out. So he walks out. But Special Agent Peter is going to find out that he's out of jail, and he's going to track him down, and he's going to throw him back in jail. But Neil's like, I don't want to have to go back to jail. Don't you know that Kate is out here, and she's in trouble, and I have to find Kate. And by the way, this red security fiber on your shoulder, let me tell you about that. It's about it's Canadian coinage, Agent Peter. And Peter said, whoa. You could be quite useful to me if we pulled a little bit of a catch me if you can kind of situation. So this is basically Catch Me If You Can, the show, is what ends up happening, where like Special Agent Peter is Tom Hanks, Homer is Leonardo DiCaprio, and it's like what happened. Spoiler alert for Catch Me If You Can. But basically, the show is like whatever happens on the other side of Catch Me If You Can, which I understand is also like real life. So spoilers for real life.
Spoilers for history.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love your monotone exposition dump. It's like it fits right in with the show.
Yeah.
He has this plan. I mean, I was wondering in the moment where what is Tim DeKay's character calls that other female agent his probie, his probationary.
Yeah, it's probie. Yeah.
Probie, thank you. I just kept wondering when she was like, so he did all that just to get in a room with you, and I'm like, wait, but was the red thread part of his plan, or was that just a coincidence? I feel like it would be ridiculous. Right? It would be ridiculous if it was, but that's how impressive Neil is that I was even considering that could have been part of the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't even touch on that part of the episode. I don't think they even go back to the fact that there is a failed safe break, right? Like there's a guy who's cracking a safe. It's a trap because it explodes all the evidence. But that explosion is what leads to that Canadian thread being left on this guy's suit that he always wears. And Neil just happens to be the one to say, oh, I can tell you what that's about. Right. All of this is a coincidence. I don't think the show ever explains how that came to be, or even what happened with the safe, or that whole entire run.
Is this not the Flying Dutchman, who's like this secret, the Flying Dutchman? He always gets away. The Flying Dutchman. Is a Flying Dutchman, and he gets away. Is he not flying, Ariel?
I think it's just the Dutchman.
Yeah.
But the Flying Dutchman from
SpongeBob
thing from real life.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it did Peter, you're flying.
To Chappell's point, it did feel like maybe they're setting up, like when you give an off-camera character like such a ridiculous name like the Dutchman, it feels like we're setting up something maybe a little bit more long-term. That was my impression.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the Flying Dutchman, who isn't necessarily flying and may not even be Dutch, we don't know, is somebody who Special Agent Peter has been chasing for a long time. And Matt Bomer's like, now listen, I've done my research. If you give me an ankle monitor, then I'm allowed to be a cop as well. This is the deal. You give me the bracelet, and I can give you the criminals as a fellow agent of the FBI's white collar unit. What do you say? And Special Agent Peter's like, no. Nice try.
That's how he says it.
He says, no.
Right. Pretty much. I mean, it's an absurd plan. It's like, hey, I know I'm really good at escaping things and running away from the law and breaking the law. But if you could just like loosen up the reins on me a little bit, like let me out of prison, but just keep this ankle monitor on me. There's no way I'm going to run for you. I promise. Like I pinky swear it, cross my heart, hope to die, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I'm not going to try to get away from you. And everybody's like, he's definitely going to do that. Right. But the whole premise is that he's just doing this to chase after the woman that dumped him, to make sure she's not having a mime orgy in France.
Right. Yeah. He finds out that Kate has changed her identity and gone to France. And Matt Bomer's first thought, he's just learned this information. It should be noted. He's just found out. Agent Peter lets it spill in like a fit of anger. And he says, she's in France. Oh, man. Shouldn't have said that. And Matt Bomer immediately is like, yeah, you shouldn't, because now I can't stop thinking about like the mime orgy that's happening. And like for such a worldly seeming guy, I'm surprised that Matt Bomer's first thought, Chappell, is mime orgy. Or do I just not know France well enough?
Look, I think I didn't see any mimes when I was there, but also if you tell me there is a such thing as mime orgies, I would like to see it. Yeah. I don't think, it'd be a very quiet affair, but I would love to like witness it as well.
It would be very quiet.
I don't think you could
from the mimes.
Yeah, I mean,
it would make a terrible podcast for sure. The Bad Mimes Club.
Generally, I don't think that like having sex on a podcast is like the most enjoyable thing to listen to begin with. So
fair.
Like I don't want to kink shame. I have no idea. Truly.
Oh no. This is me showing kink appreciation. If you're out here doing mime orgies, perfect. Hopefully you're doing it inside of it. Yeah, and hopefully you're doing it inside of an invisible box as well.
With invisible microphones and invisible recording equipment and on an invisible StreamYard.
As long as there are subtitles.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, with like bracketed subtitles to explain the actions.
Yeah.
Gonna need some
screams
help.
Internally.
Yeah. Yeah. Netflix's favorite, wet squelching. This is a thing that they loved on Stranger Things.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that could be going on here. Anyway, so he says like, no, I'm not gonna like this is ridiculous. I put you in jail. You're not going to become like my new best friend and partner in crime busting. And then he goes home, Special Agent Peter does. And this man is married to Kelly Kapowski. This man is married to Valerie Malone. This man is married to one Tiffany, does not go by Amber Thiessen. And my heart is all aflutter because 90s Josh Wigler, biggest crush on Tiffany.
No, they did the thing. They did the big one with this one. I was like, oh my God, his wife is so pretty. Oh my God, is that Kelly Kapowski? It was like mid-sentence until I realized it. I was like, wow, that's crazy. Also, he's a horrible husband to this woman. Like, sir, you were squandering what every person who was a child in the 90s would have dreamed for. So are you out here working and you got Kelly Kapowski sitting at the crib? What are you doing?
Yeah. He's like, oh, I'll be home in 10 minutes. She's like, sure.
Yeah.
Short peach.
Kelly's like, time out.
Time out.
Time out. Yeah, I was just gonna say that it makes so much sense that she would be somewhat of a romantic for the Neil character because he's basically just like a grown-up Zach Morris, right?
Sort of.
He finds ways to like do things that are against the rules. He seemingly stops time. So I think it makes sense. It fits her arc.
Do you think that she's like, I'm with the wrong USA Network guy? I should be with Mark Paul Gosselaar of Franklin and Bash. Which one is Franklin and which one is Bash? Zach Morris or Breckin Meyer? I don't even remember. And is that even a USA show?
Was that TNT? I think it was.
Yeah, I think that was TNT. I think that was.
Yeah. She's like, I should have been on TNT. This shit sucks. My husband.
They know drama. Yeah, characters welcome, but they know drama over there.
Yeah, that's why I should go there.
Do you remember when it was just boom? It was TNT. Boom.
Yeah, that's a good subtitle. We should bring that back.
Bring back the TNT shows.
If they're not using that, Chappell, if TNT isn't using boom, do we want to take that for nothing but Netflix?
Is it nothing but Netflix? Boom.
Yeah.
NBN. Boom.
NBN. Boom.
Yeah. My Instagram name is Chappell TNT, so I think that works. I'll take it.
Quickly and live on the podcast, please change your bio to say boom.
You can do it in parentheses.
Just real quick. Yeah. Yeah. Do that real fast.
Consider it done. Yeah.
Yeah. So Tiffany Thiessen, though, she's here just to be what? To be like Peter's like she's like the real like cop behind the cop, it sounds like. Like Peter's too close to it. This man is overworked. This dude has to go to the Caribbean because he needs to like unstick his brain. He's way too close. He's way too in the job. He's not objective enough. And Tiffany Thiessen just wants her husband to come home in time to watch their family dog horf down dinner at the table with the three of them. And so she's like, let me crack the case for you. I've got this. Is this going to be a recurring thing on White Collar, do we think? Is like this a foundational part of the show that Tiffany Thiessen is just always going to be like, yeah, Peter, you idiot, like just trust Matt Bomer. Or like, do this. This is the real answer to the crime. It's like every episode she's going to like secretly be the one who answers, who like solves the crime.
I don't know, Ariel. I'm concerned about their marriage in general because if the season continues like this, where basically everybody's begging this man to go home and be with his wife, and she's just like, no, it's fine, as she throws away the cold dinner and feeds it to the dog, I think he should be worried about her being the one to break out of this prison,
Yeah, and she should be threatening him at all times. She's like, you know what? Not again. I'm not going to deal with this again. I did like that they set up seemingly when Tim DeKay's character says this line to Neil, he's like, "Oh, my wife thinks you're a romantic."
Oh, my wife. He says.
I was like, wait, does this mean that they're going to meet at some point? Like, I think the show could it feels like a very easy thing to get mileage out of. Like every once in a while, Neil and Tiffany Thiessen's character interact and they like have a respect for each other, and he treats her not like he treats every other woman, like as someone to conquer, like a conquest. I think that could be fascinating because they need to give her something to do, as far as I can extrapolate right now. She doesn't have that much to do.
It seems like a little bit of a waste of Kelly Kapowski.
Yeah,
just a bit.
So hopefully she heats up as the show continues. Tons of white hot collar. We're waiting for that white collar to pop. And like there's lots of people who watch White Collar right now who are like, oh man, she dies in like 3 episodes.
Right. Like, waiting till y'all find out what happens on episode 3.
Wait, time out.
She's the Dutchman. She's the Dutch woman.
It's her.
No, the Dutchman is this guy who is actually what's his name in real life? I think Mark Shepard is the name of the actor. He plays an important character on Battlestar Galactica, but I don't want to say who in case Mike Bloom is listening. So I was happy to see him. Curtis Hagen, the Dutchman, and he's gonna ultimately get caught by Neil because this dude can't stop writing his signature in forgeries. Chappell, this always gets him every time.
It does, but I
signing your crimes. Don't sign your crimes.
Yeah. But then why are you doing it? You know what I'm saying? If you're doing all this forging and stuff like that, you're doing your best work and nobody can ever know. It's like Ariel hiding behind this avatar, on this very call. Like people are like, that Ariel guy is amazing. If only we can find him. It's like, but no, he never showed his face. Yeah. I just want to put the name with the face and the face.
I was thinking about Banksy, but you're just pointing the mirror back at me. That's crazy.
Yeah, you got to sign this podcast, Ariel. I'm just saying. I don't blame Hagen.
I did. Yeah. I'm signing it right now. You just can't see it.
Signing in. See it. So we're going to get the Flying Dutchman by the end of this episode. And in so doing, Matt Bomer is really going to like ingratiate himself to Special Agent Peter. Special Agent Peter's like, all right, you proved your point. You're cool. You can be part of the team. But Chappell, my question is, how much is Special Agent Peter enlisting Neil officially as part of the team because Neil is able to catch the Flying Dutchman versus because Neil has like the sweetest penthouse in New York City all of a sudden?
Yeah. So Diane Carroll was just like, hey, Neil, I met you at a thrift store. My husband was a felon. He's dead. You fit his clothes.
Yeah.
you need a place to stay, and he's kind of like, well, I'm living in a house, a halfway house, but that's better. So yeah, he goes and lives with her. He agrees to take care of the place, clean up, and also take care of her granddaughter, who is a grown ass woman and a very attractive one at that.
Cindy?
And so yeah,
is that right?
Yeah, Cindy.
Yeah.
And so so now he's got a good spot. He's got a good pad, and I think a lot of this is Peter's he's gaining a respect for him for sure because he's efficient. He's very effective. You said, okay, $700 a month. Now I have the best spot in town. He also helped him out with his wife situation, and I think Peter needs a friend. I think he just needs somebody else. Like he needs a partner in crime. Obviously not in crime, but a criminal partner in justice, I guess. Because I don't think he wants him to go back to jail. He could easily send him away, but he helped him out. Peter looks like he's having the time of his life with Neil. And I think that's probably why he's like, all right, you can stick around and be my buddy cop in this buddy cop situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like it feels very much like a sibling dynamic, like the way that Peter is for sure charmed by Neil, but like he can't help but be annoyed by everything that Neil does and how easy things come to him and how he interacts with people and his stupid thing with the hat. He can't stand the hat. Please stop taking the hat off and putting it back on. But yeah, I am really, really concerned all of a sudden for Diane Carroll's well-being on the show long term, because I don't know, how long she was on ultimately for.
Yeah. Diane Carroll was on your beloved Grey's Anatomy.
She was.
That's the first thing I thought of as soon as I saw her pop up.
Ariel, mama took my eyebrows. Okay. She took my eyebrows. And I will never forget it.
Does she steal someone's eyebrows on Grey's Anatomy?
Absolutely.
Yes. Christina Yang's. Christina Yang is going to get married in the season 3. She had to do a transplant. Christina Yang, played by Sandra
Wait,
Oh.
she cut her in line for the eyebrow transplant?
No, it was literally a surgical procedure. She stole this woman's eyebrows. It's a whole thing.
She was getting married.
She stole Christine Yang's eyebrows?
With a knife. Have you ever seen Nip Tuck?
Yeah, a little bit. Not a ton, but I know what it is.
There was a lot of that going on.
She nip-tucked Christine Yang's eyebrows off?
The eyebrows right off her face.
Sure.
Yeah.
Whatever. That's what happened.
Keep them? Like, what, did she put them on herself? Did she pocket them?
I'm sure she threw them away.
Was it
she
for
was
someone
like,
else?
These are worthless.
It was for Preston Burke. It's a whole thing.
It was for her son. son.
So how did
they needed those eyebrows?
So did she just then she was on the show without eyebrows, Christina Yang?
Well, thankfully it was the season finale. So by the time we came back in the fall,
her eyebrows were back.
Eyebrows were restored.
New eyebrows.
And there had been a time jump.
Did she regrow them, or did she got her old ones back? Was it like the end of Face Off where she gets her face back?
Unclear.
For Face Back and for real life.
I think for sure it was Nicolas Cage came out of the garbage and was like, I saved these for you. And then gave him her old eyebrows.
Well, I'm looking at Diane Carroll completely differently now.
You should.
In this episode, I really kind of looked at her as like, wow, what a kind woman who is taking Neil Caffrey into her home. He's going to be he keeps the house. He feeds the dog. He does stuff with her granddaughter. That seems like this was this part of the job too, or is this just like an extra?
I really hope not. I hope that she's not a mime and that she doesn't need to practice her miming things with him. But I wasn't sure because clearly to Chappell's point, her character, I think, is named June. June is way, 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 way too trusting and comfortable with this new person who literally just moved in, and by moved in I mean walked in because he owns no property or
how
clothing.
much of her are we gonna get on this show, do we think? How often does June show up on White Collar?
I would say, again, not knowing how long she's on for, probably a few times, a handful of times a season. Sounds about right for someone of her caliber.
I think I have the episode number. I think I know how many episodes she's in. I think this is the right stat. Is that a spoiler? Should I say? Should I not say?
You want
to over
under? Do over under, Chappell?
There's 80-ish episodes of White Collar.
Is it over under 20? Oh.
Let's go quick. This is a podcast.
Okay, fine. I'll go over.
Over 20. Chappell,
over 20.
Over 20 or under 20?
I go with over 20. I have to say
it's over 20. It's over 20. It's over 20.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
Cool. Because if you say anything less than 20, I'm gonna be sad because that means she's like they're gonna kill this lady, and so I really kind of want her to hang out.
Maybe they kill her, but she hangs out for a bit. She's here for a bit.
She's the Dutchman. Wow.
No, Dutchman got caught. Dutchman got caught like a chump too. He's like,
he got caught.
You locked him in the bulletproof room. You let him go into the bulletproof room, and he goes into a bulletproof room and starts smoking his cigars and just being like, little Matt Bomer.
Just being like,
your mustache. Yeah, he's just like twirling his little mustache. Yeah, he's like Bugs Bunnying it super hard at this guy. And like these guys are just like so concerned with trying to like get the key to get in because they can't get in there any other way. Meanwhile, Special Agent Pete is like bringing the cavalry in. Like, you guys are all such idiots. And he shows him his little ankle monitor. He's like, you're in trouble. And the Flying Dutchman says, well, you're a tattletale. You broke the code. He goes to jail. That's it. That's the Flying Dutchman.
It's a mark of these USA shows to have this kind of thing too, where the bad guy or the person who is not a cop is familiar with the cop language and and different regulations so that they can make stuff like this happen, because they are often operating outside the jurisdiction of the cops. Like I said, in Psych, we got a lot of that. In Suits, there's definitely no boundaries. They just do whatever they want as long as they can bend the law to make it make sense for them. And then here we're seeing that they need a warrant to get into this printing press, this warehouse where these printing presses are printing all these forgeries, and so they can't get a warrant, obviously. So he's like, oh, but if you're chasing after me, the fugitive, then you don't need a warrant. And that's exactly what he does. So he just goes and makes a big scene to where the cops, Peter and all his gang, can burst through the door and, they catch him, but then they conveniently stumble across all this other evidence that allows them to get the Flying Dutchman and throw him back in jail. So it's definitely beneficial for the police officer to have somebody who can move outside the law, as like a consultant, somebody who's not bound by the laws that the cops are bound by.
But they hired him. I think they made a huge mistake, a huge tactical error by the end of the 2-part pilot, where like, did they approve my thing? And like, he's like trying to be like he's like, well, of course they did.
Here you go.
Here you go. And so he's like, you're hired, special agent in my custody, Neil Caffrey, for 4 years, which is at least how long we will be on the air for. But like, now that he's all official, Ariel, they can't do this trick again, really, right? Because he's not a fugitive to hunt down, but it was so efficient. It was so effective. He should have just been like an unofficial agent so that they could just do this at the end of every episode to send him in. He's a fugitive. Ankle monitor went off. Bring in the cops and, oh, well, look what we have here. Forgeries and other crimes.
I love the really, really boring version of him like requesting like PTO. I'm like, was my PTO request approved? It's like, yes, it was. But no, I do love, and I think they can still do this. And this is they've already done it, and they can continue to do it over like a higher stakes situation, like a multi-episode arc, perhaps, where because we've seen it a million times, where Neil feels like he has to go off the radar for an extended period of time to get information or something in order to help the FBI. But of course, Peter's doubting him, and everyone else is like, Peter, why are you doubting him? He helped us a million times. It's like, no, this time it's different. But it's not different.
It's not different. Not different at all. So that's White Collar, basically. Stanford Blatch from Sex and the City's here. The late great Willie Garson. His character's name is Maz.
So sweet seeing sweet Mozzie, who again I knew from the commercials of White Collar, and loved on Sex and the City.
Yeah, he's a Mozzing. That's the show. What else? Anybody? White Collar fun. Liked it. Enjoyed it. Would you podcast about every episode every day for a year, Chappell? Or however long? I guess that's not even half a year.
I would say,
that's nothing for you. Are you kidding me? A walk through White Collar? That's nothing for you.
Stop it. We destroyed Suits and Pearson in less than a year. This is nothing. This is cake. And I might watch it. It feels like a lighter version of The Blacklist, where it's like, we have this criminal. I don't. Josh, were you a Blacklist guy? I don't know if I asked you that.
I watched a decent amount of it. And then I just like fell off of it, but then I would continue to read about The Blacklist.
Yes,
did you watch the whole thing?
No, I started it and then I started reading about it. I mean, I want
Yeah.
to say it kind of was like it like ran into the pandemic, and so there was like a lull in Blacklist content or
Blacklist went
something.
on for a long time. Blacklist
Yeah,
made it at
forever.
least 10
Wasn't there
seasons.
a spinoff? Am I
Yeah.
misremembering that? That
No, you're
didn't do
not.
well?
With Ryan Eggold.
Oh, that's right.
Ryan Eggold got his own show, and then the show got canceled, and then they brought him back, and he's like, if you're going to bring me back to the Blacklist, you have to kill me because I won't do this anymore.
It literally ended last year. Like it literally ended in 2023. Yeah.
I read what happened in the series finale. I won't spoil it here. And spoilers for the Blacklist and real life. I'm not going to do that on the Blacklist.
But
I did read what happened in the finale. I laughed for a long time.
It was stupid, or it was like, what was
based on based on the description of it. Yes, the description of it. It does. You know what? It does. It didn't read like a riveting finale to me. But I didn't invest all the time and energy that everybody else did into the Blacklist. But Chappell, I think that's a really astute observation. This seems like the Blacklist without the killing. Like, I don't think anyone's throwing anybody into like tubs of acid on white collar.
Right. And I guess that's, why you call it white collar, right? These are crimes that are not, your typical, these aren't your like your murder and homicides and stuff like that. It's forgery and it's, counterfeiting and, racketeering, those things that are just like, okay, these are rich people crimes, they go to jail too, but they're not as grimy as some of these other things. Right. Exactly.
Right,
they go to jail, but it's kind of chill. You could just like shave your beard and walk out if you want to.
Yeah, if you need to.
They commit their crimes with their collars popped and their pinkies out.
That's it.
That part.
Pinkies out, collars popped.
Penthouse. Yeah.
White collar. Mime orgies. That's what you're getting into when you check out this show. Currently not in the top 10 trending shows in the United States, but could be with the Nothing But Netflix bump on the other side of this podcast. Ariel, are you going to keep watching White Collar?
No.
That sounds like a no.
It doesn't sound like
I'll just be honest. I can be honest.
And is that because you didn't like it or because you just got other stuff going on?
No, I enjoyed it. I might do that thing where like I watch the quote unquote good episodes, the the multi-part ones. I'm a sucker for a to be continued. To get like the really important character dynamics and moments. But maybe I'll read about it. Maybe I'll do what you did with the Blacklist and just read about what happened.
I do think it'd be fun to like go through the USA shows, watch all of the pilots of these this characters welcome era. So like we're excluding The Sinner, we're certainly excluding Mr. Robot. Like none of like when USA like tried to like take that turn, which I love. Obviously, I love Mr. Robot to death. But like let's talk about like the White Collars, Suits, Monk. These shows, let's watch the first episode and rank them. I think first pilot, the pilot for the USA shows, this could be fun. Royal Pains, was that a USA show?
Royal Pains was also
no one talks about Royal
really
Pains.
No one talks about one.
There are a couple of failed ones. There was that one where like that guy Mark Farstein or whatever.
Isn't that Royal Pains?
Maybe that was Royal Pains. Yeah, because he was like he was a sports doctor. Yeah, I didn't know it by that name.
Royal Pains.
Well, all right, well there you go. See,
he's
I watched a couple episodes of Royal Pains though. I actually did see a couple episodes of that. It wasn't again. These shows were all in the same era, so I think that the pilots would be great to go back and watch. I think Monk is like
defies my theory that nobody has ever watched Royal Pains before.
I've seen parts of Royal Pains for sure. Yeah, sadly.
Not good.
Again, not bad. I just did again. It's all the same type of show. I just think that at some point it was like, okay, am I doing this again? You do it once with Suits. I think Monk actually predates all of the Blue Sky. Like it's like the last of whatever the era was before.
Monk's a classic.
Characters Welcome. Yeah, but it ushered in that whole little Psych, Burn Notice, Royal Pains, White Collar, that era of television. So yeah. Love to see the pilots of those. I remember the Psych pilot, and it was not great. And so would love to compare
good or bad pilot doesn't necessarily make a good or bad show.
Yeah, because I love Psych. I loved it a lot. But I remember the first episode. I've seen it multiple times, and I was like, oh, it was fine. I don't think it does the show justice. So maybe White Collar is just very, very good, and this was a decent pilot as far as I'm concerned.
I liked it. I had a good time with it. I would like to check it out more. It's just going to be a matter of how much. I mean, there's so much TV. There's too much TV, folks. Too much TV. And that's not even looking just at Netflix, but there's a lot happening on Netflix as well. And we are going to continue our Nothing But Netflix coverage next week with Chappell. Did you and Rob ever talk about Rebel Moon?
No. That sounds like it might have some fantasy or aspect to it, and Rob is
out
against that. Yeah, he just pretty anti-fantasy, anti-sci-fi. It's not really his bag.
So Rebel Moon, Ariel, you want to take this one? You want to try and explain?
I'll bastardize it and then you correct me. From my understanding is that Zack Snyder, this was his, okay, I can't do a Star Wars movie. I will do my own version of Star Wars and call it Rebel Moon and still have lightsabers, ? I really wanted to see the first one because they were showing it at a theater and I love seeing Netflix stuff in a theater because it's so rare that you get to do that. I don't know, but I never saw it, Josh.
Yeah, Rebel Moon. It's Zack Snyder. He of the Snyder Cut and other stuff.
Mostly that.
But mostly that. It's Rebel Moon, and it's a 2-part film. The first of which came out December 2023. Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, and Rebel Moon Part 2 is already here. Just a few scant months later, Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scar Giver, is
not Lion King.
What's the problem? It's giving Scar. It's giving Lion King.
It's
giving Scar for definitely.
Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scar Giver. It's giving Scar.
Stop saying that.
Is scheduled to come out April 19th, 2024, and it is scheduled to come out next on Nothing But Netflix. We are going to watch. Chappell, do you want to just watch the second one and see if you can't figure out what's going on? I'll watch the first one so I can help you out.
Sure. Okay.
I mean, I'm just telling you, like, if you only wanted to do 50%, like, it's a Zack Snyder movie, man. These can be tough. I guess I should be careful about saying that because I don't want to get like killed by the Snyder army. He's the best, by the way. I think his films are great, and he's a great director. And that's my honest feedback.
Great with lighting. That's Zach.
Yeah, I didn't like nothing that he's ever done, so this will be fun.
It'll be great for the podcast.
Yeah. So we'll watch Rebel Moon. Bonus homework, folks. If you watch Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, and then the real assignment is to watch Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scar Giver. It's giving Scar for next on Nothing But Netflix. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, Nothing But Netflix, RHAP, wherever you get your podcasts. And follow all the people on this podcast. I'm at Round Howard. You know that already. Chappell at Recap Kickback. What's happening?
A lot. Yeah, this week coming up, another Netflix show that has creeped into the top 10 TV shows. You mentioned it earlier, Josh Wigler, but Good Times, Black Again is out. Ooh. And people saw the trailer and they were not happy. And so me, Mari, and Tyrone got together to talk about the first 2 episodes and the series as a whole. It is an interesting watch. And so if you don't want to watch it, if you're just curious to think what we had to say about it, then check it out on recapkickback.com or our YouTube page. Subscribe to Recap Kickback wherever you get your podcasts and follow Recap Kickback on all social media platforms. Sasha and I are also talking about Martha's Vineyard, Summer House, Martha's Vineyard, the Bravo TV show. And so check that out.
How dramatic can Martha's Vineyard get?
It ain't that dramatic. It is not dramatic. It's dramatic people, but it's not that dramatic. But
like, I imagine it's like, here's Martha's Vineyard, the show, cut to just like a bunch of people in popped white collars drinking like fruity drinks on a porch.
It's pretty close to that. Pretty close to that. But it gets a little real. It does get a little real, but also it's a fun watch and it's a fun drama. So check that out. Me and Sasha talking about it. G and I are still talking about Abbott Elementary every other week. And so there's more of that to come on Recap Kickback. And then, of course, you can catch me on RHAP talking to Sasha about more Bravo shows. We're talking about Below Deck, every Wednesday live on YouTube at 3 p.m. Also talking about Survivor with Rob, Club Condo every Monday. And then if you're a patron of RHAP, check me out in the Discord. Meetup Mondays with Derek has been a great time. And so if you want to, if you are a paid member of this elusive group, come join us as we hang out and talk about stuff that you cannot record on podcasts, because it's a good time. But follow me on all social media and you keep up with all that I have going on over there.
Amazing. Ariel, a delight to have you here on Nothing But Netflix talking about White Collar, but you're out there talking about so much else on the newly launched Crying Laughing podcast. Tell us all about it.
Wow. Yeah, sorry. I've been sitting here like practicing my pinky exercises, trying to like get it to pop quickly. I am, Crying Laughing podcast with Dr. Amanda. If you know, you know. We're covering a lot of things. We talk a lot about what we're watching now that's current, and we'll be getting some perhaps full season coverage of some current shows. But we picked up our 6 Feet Under rewatch coverage. We're deep into season 3. All our previous episodes that we did for PSR are on our feed as well. So just started season 3 of 6 Feet Under, which is super, super fun. Follow along, search, if you're interested, Crying Laughing Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at Cry Laugh Pod. And I am on Twitter at that other Ariel. I should also plug, I was covering one of my favorite current shows, X-Men 97.
Oh,
I was on the Screen and Page podcast with DM Philly.
I'm actually going to be on there in about an hour doing the same thing.
Episode 5, and I got really lucky with the episode that I got to cover, the last week's episode 5. My friend texted me like, why is everyone talking about this X-Men episode? I was like, you know what? I've been telling you to watch it for weeks, so I have no sympathy for you.
No spoilers for X-Men 97, but spoilers for real life. Chappell and I got on the phone last week to talk some Nothing But Netflix, and you picked up, and I got your immediate reaction to having finished this past week's X-Men 97, Chappell.
Yeah, I mean, legit, my immediate reaction, I was like, Josh, I just turned off. Like, I just closed the laptop in rage. But it was a great episode, and I strongly suggest anybody who has been watching X-Men 97, or who has been avoiding watching it, I guess I should say.
Like, now, watch it now.
Now is the time. Now is the time. Like, you're like, I'm going to binge it all. That's probably smarter for your mental health, because now I'm forced to wait a week after that. But check it out. And then, of course, check out Josh and Ariel when they go share their takes, because I've talked to you both about Marvel stuff, and you always have good opinions. And so I'm dying to hear what you have to say about these.
Yeah, I mean, just there's a lot of good shows on right now. X-Men 97 is just wow, really blowing me out of the water. But no spoilers on that. That's for a different podcast. This is the Nothing But Netflix podcast, where we can only talk about Netflix. How do you you break the rules though, right? Chappell,
we've broken the rules a few times. We've gone to the max on certain episodes where we've talked about HBO Max. We've done what was it? Something about Hulu, hanging with Hulu a couple times. Yeah, we've done that. So if there's a reason why we should be talking about something that's not on Netflix, that's huge, and that you got to hear us covered, just let us know by putting it in the comments, or mentioning at Nothing But RHAP on Twitter, and letting us know what it is you want us to talk about.
Yeah, because I'd be super down to cheat.
That's so Neil Caffrey of y'all.
I'm very Neil Caffrey about
this. To smuggle in something else.
We could smuggle in a totally different streaming service into the Nothing But Netflix podcast. I don't care. Rules out the window as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. When you say we mean nothing is like a suggestion. It's not like a recommendation.
You know, it's like
as long as you're wearing your ankle bracelets, it's all good.
That's right.
We won't go too far.
All right. Well, my ankle bracelet is on. I'm still here, trapped with Chappell in Nothing But Netflix, and there's nowhere else I'd rather be. Yes. We hope you all enjoyed the podcast. We hope you are all excited for next week's podcast, Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scar Giver. It's giving Scar next on Nothing But Netflix. Until then, everybody, take care. Bye.
Peace.